Can you see around me?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Okay. Hello everybody. I'm Dawn. I'm the Business Development Manager for the North Central Midwest for Rocky Mountaineer. So Rocky Mountaineer, if you haven't heard about us, we've actually been in business for 30 years now. So we do one area of the world and we do it the right way. Basically, we're just Western Canada. So Vancouver over to the Jasper, Banff, Lake Louise area. This is kind of a crazy map. I will explain that a little bit later, but just I wanted to give you an idea of where we go. So with Rocky Mountaineer, we do like to say that seeing is believing, and that's a huge understatement. It is true. Up to 80% of our route, that's a huge statistic, up to 80% of our route is inaccessible by car. I just got off the train last week, which is very, very exciting. And you know what, when you see the pictures of us going by, hugging the coastline and going over the crevasses and the canyons, that's really what you're going to be seeing. I could show you pictures upon pictures of bear that were walking up right next to the train and elk that were right next to the train. So just keep that in mind. I'm going to show you a brief video on Rocky Mountaineer in general.
We are Rocky Mountaineer. We are bigger than a train ride. We are a life-changing experience that's become synonymous with iconic travel around the world. With each departure, we give people the space and widen perspective to escape from everyday distraction and reconnect with the things that matter. We bring everyone together to share an experience that makes us all feel richer through deeper human connections and a celebration of being in the moment. Our authentic, warm, open spirit helps people recharge in the face of beauty, providing a tonic for the soul. We immerse people in awe-inspiring nature to give them one of the most meaningful times of their lives. It's our relentless pursuit of excellence and unparalleled service that will give every guest the luxury of not having to worry about a single thing. We will continue to create space for enriching connections for all our guests, ultimately delivering one of the world's great life experiences. This is Rocky Mountaineer.
So welcome aboard. A day on board the train. The word day, very key in this scenario because we are daylight only train travel. Probably one of the biggest misconceptions about Rocky Mountaineer is where do you sleep on the train? You don't, unless you're napping. But we do allow that. But other than that, when you go into the areas and you get off, you get on the train about 8 in the morning, and then you're traveling during the day through nature, through the mountains, the canyons, and then you get off around 6 o'clock at night. So a day on board the train is really, really important. You're arguably going to one of the prettiest areas of the world. You want to see it. You don't want to be sleeping through it, and you don't want to be traveling through it at night. So I'm going to break this down. Rocky Mountaineer can be a bit confusing, which is one of the reasons why you want to use the professionals at the travel business. But I'm going to break it down for you. So I'm going to break it into service levels, then routes, and then we'll talk about what we do after the train. So first of all, service levels. We have 2 service levels, gold and silver. And what I want you to know about this, before I get into the details of each, is that no matter which class of service you take, it is all inclusive while you're on the train. That means your meals, which is generally breakfast and lunch, because we're off the train by dinner time, that daylight only thing we just talked about. Your snacks and your alcoholic, non-alcoholic beverages are both all included, no matter which class of service you take. When you're on board, you're going to have hosts, anywhere from 2 hosts to 4 hosts. Those hosts are going to be your new best friends for the next 2 or 3 days while you're on the train. And they're, besides of course telling you the history of the area, they'll tell you great stories of the area. There's my favorite story I just heard last week when I was on the train is of Doris. So we go past, I can't even call it a little town, it's about 5 houses. And we go past, and for almost 30 years now, Doris has been out waving to our train as it goes by. So we had a surprise for Doris this year. We brought her on the train. She was so thrilled. She's been waving to this train for 30 years. Well, what she didn't know is we had an even bigger surprise for her. And when we went past her house, on her front porch was many of the hopes that she has been waving to for the last 30 years. So they were waving to her. She was crying. Everybody started crying. So they'll tell you neat stories like that. The hosts are also great animal spotters. So they carry walkie-talkies. If anybody on the train, and this happened last week, if anybody on the train spots a bear, they'll yell out, "Bear on the right," and then everybody runs to the right side of the train and screams and takes a picture of the bear. And that's where it becomes a fun social interaction as well. Okay, so the Gold Leaf service is what I'll start with. This is our 2-level rail car. You sit up top, you take a spiral staircase down, and you dine restaurant style on the main level. I do want to mention the spiral staircase. If there's anybody with mobility issues, we do have a lift. It's more like a service lift, but it goes up and down, so you certainly can take that as well. And then we have this outdoor viewing area. So this is your view from the Gold Leaf rail car. 180-degree, almost completely unobstructed view. This little strip right here is just for temperature and lighting control. The seats, nice wide leather seats. You push a little button and your footrest comes out. You push another one. You don't lean back, so you don't have to worry about the people in front of you, behind you, but you kind of slide forward to recline. They're heated as well, which is really, really nice. Like I mentioned, I was on the train last week. There was a gentleman on my rail car who is 7 foot tall, my new record. 7 foot tall. Before it was 6'7", but now he's 7 foot tall. He had plenty of leg room, he said, on the Gold Leaf, because I made sure to ask him how tall he was. You probably thought I was crazy, but I asked him how tall he was and if he had enough leg room. So keep that in mind. And then, as I mentioned, on the main level, you're going to dine restaurant style. So tables of 4, 2 across from each other. We make the dining a big deal. It's truly world-class cuisine. We're actually Michelin star rated. So the food is to die for, and it's all locally sourced. So the beef is Alberta beef. The salmon is from the Pacific Northwest. The wines are from the Okanagan Wine Valley. So all locally sourced food. You get a choice of about 5 to 6 entrees on our Gold Leaf car for breakfast and lunch. So here's the best part of Gold Leaf. This outdoor viewing area. So the train only goes about 35 miles an hour max. We're not a speed train, bullet train going through Japan. 35 miles an hour max-ish. So you can stand out there, just breathe in this fresh mountain air, take pictures. It probably fits about 15 to 20 people if we were all standing side by side. I've never been out there when there's been more than 5 people, and there's times I've been out there for 20 minutes by myself. People just kind of tend to come and go. But it's one of my favorite things that you can get up, stretch your legs, and go get some fresh air. And that is only on our Gold Leaf. I'm going to show you a quick video on Gold Leaf. different. Silverleaf is a single level rail car, so as you can see, big wide windows. It's still considered a domed car. The domes go up about a third of the way. It's not the 180-degree view, but still amazing views from Silverleaf. And the beauty of Silverleaf is you actually dine at your seat. So your tray tables come down, and it looks like it's small, but it really isn't. Again, plenty of room on Silverleaf, a lot of leg room. Your tray tables come down, we do the crystal, linen, china, and the chef comes through and plates your food right in front of you. So I like that because I'm a really picky eater, so I like peeking up and seeing what they may or may not be putting on my plate. So I do like that portion of it. You get a choice of 2 entrees at breakfast and lunch on Silverleaf. And by the way, we can handle almost any dietary request except for kosher. And the reason being is every single rail car, be it silver or gold, has its own kitchen and culinary team. So that's pretty amazing. So that being said, we can handle most dietary requests that you need. And again, no matter which class of service you pick, you're going to overnight in hotels, anywhere from 3.5-star hotels up to the 5-star Fairmonts that are so well known in the Canadian Rockies. And this again is where your travel agents will come in, and they'll be able to tell you, you can mix and match different classes of service with the train. So as far as the hotels and the trains, so they'll be able to help you with that. Okay, so that was step 1. We picked our class of service. And now we're gonna pick our route or routes. And as I mentioned, that crazy map that I showed you, it looks really confusing. It's really easy. We have 3 routes. We have 2 routes that go to Jasper and 1 route that goes to Banff. So I'll go over the 3 routes with you briefly. Please know you can go either east to west, west to east. Doesn't matter which way you go, it's the same scenery. I'm gonna talk Vancouver eastbound just for simplicity and continuity's sake. And again, right now I'm just talking the routes. We'll talk about what we're gonna do after the train in a bit, but I'm breaking it down for you. So, this one goes Vancouver to Jasper, and you overnight in Whistler and Quesnel. So welcome to Vancouver. Oh, Vancouver, truly one of my 3 favorite cities in the entire world. I love that our headquarters is there. Actually, Rocky Mountaineer's headquarters is in Vancouver. I love it because you know what? They call us into mandatory meetings or trainings, and usually we're like, oh, hey, they paid for my flight. I paid for an extra couple nights hotel. I've got a cheap weekend in Vancouver. So always, always, always spend at least 1 extra night in Vancouver. 2 if you're going to go to Bouchard Gardens, because that's a full day in itself. You're going to get on the train and you're going to head to Whistler. You get into Whistler about noon. So this, quaint little ski village, home of the 2010 Winter Olympics. So you have the rest of the day and the evening to enjoy Whistler. Get on the train again the next day and you're going to head to Quesnel. Now, Quesnel is this itty-bitty town, and the reason we call this Rainforest to Gold Rush is because of the topography difference. So if you're into a lot of different scenery, this is a route you're going to want to think of taking because you're going to hug the coastline of Vancouver. That's technically rainforest. You're going to see the mountains of Whistler. When you get to Quesnel, this is where the gold rush happened. So it's actually very desert-like. You would have no idea that you're in Canada. You would think you're more in Arizona because it's desert and canyons. Overnight in Quesnel, get up the next day, and end your journey on the train portion in Jasper. Now, Jasper actually surprised me the first time I was there. Heard of Jasper a lot, thought it was bigger. It's only a town of about 4,000 people. The main street's only about a half a mile long. So it's really a unique little town. I've actually seen elk walking down Main Street in Jasper. Okay, so that's our 3-day route. Now we have a 2-day route that goes to Jasper called Journey Through the Clouds. And this is where, again, start and end in Vancouver, Jasper. You're going to overnight in the middle, right in the middle in Kamloops. Now, people ask me, okay, why Kamloops and why Quesnel? Well, remember that stat I told you of up to 80% of our route being inaccessible by car? There's kind of nowhere else to stay that's going to be able to hold the people on Rocky Mountaineer for the overnights. We don't want you having to go through this at night because you'd be missing the beauty. But that being said, I actually like Kamloops. It's a town of about 100,000 people. It's where the north and south branches of the Thompson River come together. So all along here, there's a trail I always go running in, except for the train. A day on the train, I want to stretch my legs a little bit. Every night in the summer in that green area, there's a park. So even though there's some cool restaurants, when I went on this route actually with my sister last summer, and we were so full from the train that we didn't want to go to a restaurant. So we just grabbed some cheese and crackers and headed to the park and listened to the live music that was going on. So it's really nice, nice evening. And then again, ending in Jasper. So Jasper to me is still very pristine and untouched. It just seems not as touristy as some of the other areas. So those are our two routes to Jasper. Then we have one route that goes to Lake Louise and Banff called First Passage to the West. This is a very historical route. So in between Kamloops and Lake Louise, two things happen. One is the last spike was laid at Craigellachie. That connected 3,200 kilometers of rail across Canada, east and west. And the other thing is it's home to the spiral tunnels. So back in the early 1900s, it was super dangerous to travel on this route. And they knew they had to do something. So they brought in engineers who literally blasted through the mountains and created what they call spiral tunnels. But they're not really spiral. They actually look like a big, giant cursive L. It's very hard to explain. I've been on that route probably 5 times, and I still have a hard time explaining it. Trust me, it's really cool. And the hosts on board do a great job of explaining it. But sometimes if the train is long enough, you can see it going in. You can see the front coming out of the back and the back going into the front. It's pretty cool. But it's still an engineering marvel to this day. We are the only passenger train to run on this route and on the Grain Forest to Gold Rush route. So this route does the same thing, Vancouver to Kamloops, and then instead of heading northeast up to Jasper, it heads straight east over to Lake Louise and Banff. So Lake Louise, of course, home of the famous Chateau Lake Louise, home of these emerald green waters. And Banff, oh, if Vancouver is my favorite city, Banff is my favorite little town. And this picture depicts what I love about the Canadian Rockies. Doesn't it look, this is a shot right down Banff Avenue. It looks like you're gonna run smack dab into Mount Runnell there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like that all over the Rockies. I mean, I've been to the Alps, to Alaska, I was in the Tetons this summer, and they're gorgeous, gorgeous. But I figured out what's so special about the Canadian Rockies. They surround you. They really envelop you, and they're close to you. They're very majestic, very just enormous, which is different than most mountain ranges that I have seen. So you always want to spend 2 nights in Banff as well. First time I did Rocky Mountaineer, I made the mistake. I did 1 night in Banff. The train was a little bit delayed. We got in around 8 o'clock. I had dinner. I had an 8 a.m. transfer to the Calgary airport the next morning. So don't make that mistake. 2 nights in Banff as well. Okay, so those are our routes. That's pretty easy, right? So everything I've been talking about has been going one way. So say starting in Vancouver, heading up to Jasper, heading over to the Lake Louise, Banff area, and then flying out of Calgary. But honestly, what a lot of people do, and it is our bestseller, is called a circle journey. I joke with the travel agents here that I love my job because I never get a complaint, which is true. I really don't ever get a complaint. And for a salesperson, that's pretty amazing. But I do get comments. And inevitably, when I'm at a trade show, and this just happened about 3 weeks ago, I was in St. Louis at a trade show, and somebody came up to me and said, "Oh, you know what? Best trip I've ever done, but I wish I would have had more time on the train, or I wish I would have gone both ways on the train." That's the comment that I do get. In other words, they wish they would have done what we call a circle journey. So a circle journey in this scenario would be starting in Vancouver, taking our first passage to the west route over to Lake Louise or Banff, spending a couple days in Lake Louise, Banff, Jasper, then getting back on the train, and instead of flying out of Calgary, back on the train to take another route back to Vancouver. So you're on the train for a couple days, off for about 5, 6, 7 days, however long you want to be off, and then back on for another 2 to 3 days, depending on the route that you take back. And it really has been one of our best sellers. This green dotted line, by the way, there is no rail that goes north and south between Jasper and Lake Louise and Banff. That's where the touring comes in, which is the next section that I'm going to talk about. So we've talked about our service level. We've talked about our route, or hopefully routes, if you have enough time to spend over in the Rockies. And then what do you do when you get off the train? So that green dotted line, there's no rail. This is where you'll be doing the touring. This is a better picture of that green dotted line. Gives you a little better idea. You'll be doing the touring by, most of people will be doing it by motor coach. I don't want you to think of it like an escorted tour though. It's more like shore excursions if you've been on a cruise. Because these are just half day and full days excursions. From Jasper down to Lake Louise, about 3 hours if you were to drive it straight through. And then from Lake Louise over to Calgary, about 2 hours if you were going to drive it straight through. So the destinations, as I said, we do a lot of touring in this area. There's so many things. I could go on and on and on. Yoho National Park, the Columbia Ice Fields, which are really, really cool. You take this tractor-looking thing out onto the glacier. You're standing on top of a glacier that is as thick as the Eiffel Tower is tall. So think about that. Yeah, when you're on that glacier and you think about it, it's pretty amazing. And as I said, you can do it, most people do it by motor coach. And you won't, the reason I'm saying don't think of it like an escorted tour, you will have a driver and guide, but you may not be with the same people that were on the train with you because they may be doing different excursions than you're doing. You could also do it by self-drive. I did this with my sister last year, and we're still talking, so that's a good thing after being in the car for a week together. There's one road between Jasper and Lake Louise, one road. The Icefield Parkway. You can't get lost. It's impossible to get lost. You just have to watch out for the moose. But other than that, and it's highway driving, so it's really easy, but it's gorgeous. So this is the question I get asked the most. When's the best time to travel? Well, Rocky Mountaineer only operates mid-April to mid-October. People think it's because of the weather. Has a little bit to do with it, but it's more because of the daylight only, that we want to make sure you're seeing the area that you're going to. So I'll tell you the pluses and minuses. Spring, you'll see snow-capped mountains. You'll see a ton of wildlife because we share the lines with the freight trains. Freight trains are carrying feed's flying off the freight trains. The animals are coming out of hibernation. They're hungry. They're looking for food. And if there's a downside to spring, Lake Louise will be frozen over until about June 1st. So if seeing those emerald green waters are super important to you, you may want to think about summer. We all know the pluses and minuses of summer travel. Impeccable weather, everything's in full bloom. It's going to be a little more crowded at that time. And then autumn. Ooh, if gun to my head, I had to choose a favorite season, it probably would be autumn, although I do like spring and summer too. So, and maybe it's just because I just got off the train last week. We saw vibrant colors in Vancouver all the way over to Kamloops. After we left Kamloops, talk about going from fall to winter in a day. By the time we got to Banff, there was 4 to 6 inches of snow that had fallen the night before. So it was just gorgeous, gorgeous. Now you don't get vibrant colors when you're in the Rockies, but a lot more colors than I thought it would be because you have a lot of aspen trees that turn that gold color. And they're contrasting with the evergreens, and it's just gorgeous. A lot of wildlife too. Like I said earlier, we saw bear down by the tracks, elk, a bighorn sheep. We had an eagle actually flying right by the train for a while. It was really, really cool. So you'll see a lot of wildlife in the autumn as well. Okay, so if you're out there and you think this sounds really good, and I'm going to wait until July to book because Rocky Mountaineer is going to have a fire sale, that's not going to happen. I can tell you that right now. We only have a 6-month travel window. We book up. So, and actually we give our best promotions to those who book the earliest. Hands down, always, it never changes. So I do want to mention that to you. It's always best to book earliest with Rocky Mountaineer. So we're currently at our Peak 3 promotion. Our Peak 3 promotion gives you 1 free hotel night. So you can use that in either Vancouver or Calgary, beginning or end. If you're doing a circle journey, you can have 1 night before in Vancouver, 1 night after, 2 nights before, however you want to do it. 1 free airport transfer, either upon arrival or departure, and 1 free hotel dinner. This can be any hotel that you're staying at of your choice. Note to self, if you're staying at a Fairmont, use it for that because those can be up to 135 Canadian dollars. So please use it for that. And this is good until October 25th. So I know, what are we at, the 16th right now? So it's good for another 9 days. They haven't told us yet if they're going to extend it. I'm hoping they're going to, but I can't promise you that they're going to. So they never tell us until the last minute. So keep that in mind. I'm going to show you one last video on this is just kind of what I like. It's kind of a bucket list trip for things to do in the Canadian Rockies. Okay, so thanks everybody. Please, like I said, this can be a little bit confusing in product. Use your travel agents here at the travel business because they're going to be able to tell you ways that you can save some money and where you do want to spend the money. So please use them. I've known these ladies forever and it's been great working with them. They're truly professional. So please use them. And thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
You.
Yes.
If you want to go from east to west, you fly into Calgary to end up in Vancouver. And is there bus transportation from the airport in Calgary to your start?
So yeah, so what you probably would do, you'd spend probably the first night in Calgary because we do sightseeing along the way into the Banff area. So you'd spend your first night in Calgary. You don't have to, and yes, we would provide transportation if you want to just go straight to Banff. But usually that first area, that first day we would, well the second day because it's after the first night, we would provide transportation for you and it would include touring along the way.